Patrick, for having me.
All right. Special report, Truepowerismine with Coach Abdullah. And this is actually the second take. But, Coach, we were talking about the Masonic influence on government and life in general. And I wanted to really talk about this today because I think it's extremely important that we understand how it has truly subverted the culture and our perception of reality. You know, pertaining to government, do you have any ideas how Masonry has affected it?
Well, let me just take it back a little bit because I'm just a regular dude that just lived life, and I got to be in my 40s. But the thing about it is, when we go back and look and reflect in life, the crazy thing is, the more and more I really paid attention to my childhood, my teenage years, my college years, it seems that everywhere, when I looked behind the curtain, so to speak, it was always something. It was some Freemasonry, some fraternity group, or some kind of thing behind everything. And I'm going to say it. I have nothing against anybody. Yeah, we're humans have free will. You can choose to do whatever you want to do. But when I look back, it just makes it look like that everything is not on the even playing field, as it seems. Because everywhere I looked, and even in my own family, that's why I say, I have no animosity, but it is what it is. And I think everybody that thinks that everything is on a level playing field, they have the right to know that, at least from one guy's perspective, and that's Coach Abdullah, that it's not on a level playing field from like I said on your last show, from your city, who runs your city, all the way up to big government. Everybody's connected to something, behind the scenes, or sometimes on Front Street. We've been dumbed down as a society to think in, terms into generalizations that really don't let us get exactly right to the point.
Right.
And I just say that pretty much wherever you look, if you really look behind the curtain, you're gonna find some type of group, or some type of secret organization, or some kind of members only type of get up. And that's just how American society is run.
But I think
I've been able to swallow the pill. Go ahead.
I think it's even beyond American society. I think it's a global phenomenon at this point because of the fact what you just said there. You can look at almost any event, any catastrophe, or any miracle, and then really analyze who benefits off of said event. Analyze their past and what that particular group has been about. And then suddenly it becomes crystal clear when you start looking at history through those particular lenses, what's really going on. Even in business, some of these, Fortune 500 companies, oh my God, the CEO, Harvard, blah, blah, blah. No, it had nothing to do per se with the education at Harvard, but everything to do with the secret societies at Harvard that this individual is plugged into. See, the reason why capitalism and socialism, communism, all these isms will always fail, ultimately, is because they are a scheme that was conceived to deceive. Deceive you of your time, deceive you of your labor, and most important, deceive you on keeping your mind focused on God. That's what this thing has always been about. And that's what it will always continue to be about. That's why there's nothing truly new underneath the earth. Everything goes around and everything comes around. Either we can collectively choose to break this monotonous cycle, or else we will ultimately, yet again, be victimized by its the cycle itself, by the ups and the downs of it. No group of people, no nation of people, and even no family of people have yet to stop this cycle, have yet to break the paradigm of and this is just pertaining to government, of it leaning too much to positiveness or it's leaning too much to negativeness. No, there's never really been. Almost all governments, without exceptions, always ultimately leans to the negative side, because the scheme in which it actually comes to be, the main players in the original formation of these organizations are always goons of the occultists. Right down the list.
Right.
So,
right.
What can we really do?
We look at history. If we look at history, sometimes I like to look at the world we live in today and history in a timeless way. What do I mean by that? You have to look at what were the forces against Jesus, the Son of Mary. What were the forces against him?
Oh, there were the Pharisees, the religious forces. There was the governmental forces. And then there was just the forces of evil generally.
So when you break things down, break things down to the lowest common denominator. Lowest common denominator would be ultimate good versus ultimate evil.
Correct.
And there's a spectrum of something within the two. But ultimate, that's why I use the word ultimate. Because if you look at, and then you look at the means by which the forces that were against those people in history, what were the means by which they inflicted their force?
It was by bloodshed.
What was the means by which they?
It was typically by blood.
That's one. But also look in the case of Moses. He had the court gesture, the fake magician.
Right.
The fake magician.
Entertainment.
Right.
Entertainment.
This was a means of deception to keep Pharaoh being able to say that he was the God Almighty.
Yes.
And you saw a replica of that in the movie Apocalypse Now, when they showed the Mayan or the Aztec culture.
Wasn't that Apocalypto or something? That Mel Gibson movie or whatever?
Apocalypto, yeah, Apocalypto, yeah. Okay, so then what was the same thing? The masses of the people were drawn in by the miracle of the king. And the free thinkers were attacked. They were strangers. They were the people who were. If you saw how the society was. If you look at how the society was structured, you had the people who were already under the spell, and then you remember the time when the sun didn't pass the cloud, or the cloud didn't pass the sun like it was supposed to. That's when the guy was afraid. And see these are why I say I look at it timeless, because in our time the deception is entertainment and music. Yeah. All forms of entertainment. Now you add on to entertainment all forms of social media. You got you can Google Candy Crush, you can Google the Blue Whale, you look at the case of the new app that at the end of it could cause a person to commit suicide. Look at the case of one of the mass shooters said that he was told through an app. So now we've reached a point to where ultimate good and ultimate evil is blurry.
Right.
It's not clear. Even though that is the ultimate reality. Because they have all these kinds of deceptions to take people away. That's why I always remember when we were talking before, I said when I talk to an atheist, I always ask them, if they're at a certain age, I always ask them, what did you believe before 9/11? That's the key question. Because 9/11 was not just a physical event. What happened after 9/11 put us in an information
black hole. Yeah.
And we did why I say black hole, because we did this hyper warp in hyperspace, and just now in that particular moment, tons of information that was not readily available before. It put us in an information age. And when we were in an information age, with all the type of distractions at the time, with the shock of 9/11, a lot of people lost faith.
They did. Because don't forget, you have these same people like the Pat Robertsons and that when something bad happens to Haiti or something, that's because those people are so wicked and God's punishing them. Well, then the same logic will have to apply for the event on 9/11. That was punishment.
Well, let me give you two. I gave you one before that shook a lot of people up, and that was the Zeitgeist movie. But another one was on the conservative side. Just shortly before he passed away, and this used to be on YouTube. Reverend Jerry Falwell, who was the spiritual advisor for Bush, he said the Messiah wasn't coming back. Jesus wasn't coming back. Now that's key. That's key. You see, when you get these messages, and now today we just heard the Pope saying something similar. So you're talking about when you were talking about being here for the purpose of God, and me co-opting that your statement and saying that the reality is ultimate good versus ultimate evil. And I'm going further to say, with all the distractions now, even now within religion, they're going to take you away from God.
Well,
with all the
well, that's the uncomfortable question for sure. For sure. Because that question, there's no wiggle room. Either you're getting the food you need or you're being slowly poisoned. That's ultimately it. And I still believe that most of it, as far as religion's concerned, you're born with it. It's already in you. It's written literally on your heart. Now, when we get into the actual religions and the actual rituals and traditions and all, that's that man-made glitter bug added to the truth. But like the Chinese, not the Chinese, but the Buddhist philosopher said, to add or to subtract from the truth, then it becomes a lie. All right? I'd rather stick with real truth than a man-made lie any day of the week. I don't care how much gold and jewelry, how many big churches or temples or fancy palaces and all. That's irrelevant, because at the end of your life, you go into the ground and it's over. You're not taking none of it. You're not taking none of the money. You're not taking none of the fame. You're not taking none of the all the respect, none of it. Just like you come into this world with nothing, you're gonna exit this world with nothing. You know, I mean, you're coming with
all a mirage.
It is. It truly is almost as we are truly living a simulation of sorts. And if that were the case, then we probably want to analyze. Then are we like collectively the real humans, not the tares? Are we collectively prisoners of war, and this is some sort of simulation to try to figure out what our intentions are, or perhaps even what our collective weakness is?
Well, the thing about this simulation concept, ultimately, if you believe that it's a simulation, then you have to follow no rules. It's, again, one of those escape
mechanisms.
Escapism.
Yeah. And there's definitely rules.
Because all you're doing is just still not wanting to be responsible for yourself. Because if it's a simulation, then
Nothing matters. It doesn't really count.
Simulation was created by what?
And that would be.
See, we still have to go back to the creator question. Okay, if it's a simulation, that means it was designed. There's intelligence there. Somebody designed it. Who designed it?
And nobody wants to talk about all that. Because it's like you said.
See, that's what I'm saying. I have a mind where I can break these things down. You know, even like, just just like how nobody was talking about flat Earth. And then all of a sudden everybody was talking about flat Earth.
Right.
You see, if you throw that at me, that means you wanted me to catch it. No, I'm going to dodge it.
I mean,
I'm going to dodge it.
The whole flat Earth thing, you think that's just more of a deception to get people off the truth? Or what is it?
I mean, why now? Why now?
I guess to make, when they bring out the chips, to associate people who are unwilling to take the chip, like how you would kind of associate a person who believes the Earth is flat right now. Like they're off the rocker. They're crazy.
I think that we're just denying the obvious when we talk about flat Earth. Now, is the Earth a globe shape? No, it's not a globe shape. It's more like an egg shape.
Right. Wider at the middle, apparently.
Do I believe that part of this discussion are valid questions, like how land masses are depicted on maps. Okay? This is a greater argument we need to discuss more than flat Earth. Flat Earth is nothing. Because, see, once you go to flat Earth, then you get into inner Earth. You talk about all these things that nobody can prove.
But you know what? One thing I can prove about the inner Earth.
There's not one billionaire in that wants to publicly say, "Hey, I'm putting my money up, and I'm going to go to inner Earth."
No.
Are there things about the Earth that governments protect from the masses? Absolutely. From treasures to land masses to all kinds of minerals and elements that help them keep on top.
Right. It's all about the technology. But you know how.
So of course there are things that we don't know about, but it's not to the extent that the Earth is flat, meaning that there's an edge. And see, that's what I'm saying. Once you get there, now you go on forever. There's no end to that discussion because it's flat Earth, and there's a glass bubble. And then on top of it, the sky is just a hologram. See, it goes on forever with no evidence. But I think everyone who's ever been in the Navy and everyone who's been on an airplane, especially a pilot who's flown long distance, will tell you that the Earth isn't flat. If you've been at sea and watched the sun, I've been at sea many times, fishing overnight in the middle of the Red Sea, many times. Through nature, we know that the Earth is not flat. Through human observation, we know that the Earth is not flat.
Right. But the most baffling thing about the whole thing is how can the Earth be together? Because you take magnetics, say paradigm magnets, right? The strongest magnets in the world, like 1,000 times the pressure, right? If you was to heat those up, they lose their the magnetism. So tell me, how can the core of the center of the Earth be magnetized when we know heat and magnets don't mix? And how can the sun even stick together? We know heat and magnets don't stick.
Because we're talking about, we, the creation, are talking about other creations. Well, we cannot know how the Creator creates and how He makes things in His essence. That's above our knowledge.
True.
All human does is speculate about. It's one of the best or if not the best of God's creations, pondering about his creation. So
yeah, but I think we ponder for the wrong reasons. We shouldn't be pondering by his creation.
I mean, yeah. But what I'm saying is, when we try to use science to make sense of other things we're created, some things we may not understand.
Of course, most things are in theory.
You know, when you know, are you really serious? You're gonna tell me that Isaac Newton came up with, you know, gravity? Isaac Newton, really?
I actually heard the story with that. It was one of the slaves.
I mean, human observation will give you gravity.
Oh, true. True.
If I need, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying what I'm getting at is things that like we give a human explanation to the things that we experience on Earth.
Right.
And the masters of that are called scientists. The masters of that are called scientists.
Mm-hmm.
But at no point can a scientist step out of the realm of being a part of creation.
No, he's a part of the thing he's experimenting.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. So when a scientist says these two magnets get to the 0 point, so how does this reflect? Because you didn't create it. You're just reflecting on what you know. And actually, you ain't never even cut it in half.
Mm.
And has a human ever reached the core of the earth?
No. The farthest we've been down is in the Marianas Trench.
Then basically it's academic speculation.
Of course. But then that opens up the whole David Icke realm. Where, oh my God, there really could be lizards down there. Who knows? You know, it goes back to who knows. But ultimately, it should be who cares. Does that get me closer to where I need to be at?
When you say lizards, see that's the thing. David Icke.
The Dragos, Dragos.
See, lizards being under earth, then a tribe of people being descendants of lizards. Okay.
Mm.
It sounds great.
Mm.
Evidence. It sounds great. Evidence.
There is none.
I just feel that goes along with all those fake videos on YouTube where you're trying to show that people got, like, you know, lizard eyes and
yes,
all that kind of stuff on YouTube. All I gotta say is I'm sure there's thousands of people who physically seen the Queen or physically seen Hillary Clinton, George Bush, or any of those people that they.
Obama. They always went in with Obama.
And I think greater than, I'll tell you a personal story. I won't say the person's name. They're still alive and they're famous. Greater than any lizard eyes is the feeling that I felt when I shook the person's hand one time, and it made me feel so creepy that when I went home, I took a shower.
Really?
And that's, I couldn't describe that, but I just say, that's evil on that person, man. You know what I'm saying? Something dark on that person. That made me creepy. I've only had that twice in my life when I met someone and their presence. I'm not talking about like a person that sucks your energy out of you.
Right.
They call those social vampires. Those are, really negative people. No, I'm talking about like this. No. I'm talking about somebody that makes you feel creepy. Like, this person is something's different about this person. This person is dark. And it's not a fear, because physically the second person and both of them, if I gave them a left hook, it's nighty-night. It's not about physical intimidation.
But that's
spiritual.
We're not
talking about physical intimidation. We're talking about spiritual.
Yes.
We're talking about the feeling that I felt inside my chest when I shook this person's hand. And it
Dang.
made me feel dirty, creepy. Anyway,
So, that the thing is what can we do to, like you said, about the person that you shook their hand. Are there any clues prior to the handshake that you were drawing off of that indicated this person was spiritually unsound? Because apparently these people have a chameleon aspect about them. They can get into the churches, they can get into the government, they can get into the schools.
well, the person is quite a famous person. The person has a quite likable
Demeanor.
and if I want to give you an exact setting, okay, this is the night of the Mike Tyson Francois Botha fight at the MGM, and this is post fight on the floor of the MGM, and where there's tons of famous people all over, and I took a picture with this gentleman, and had a short conversation with him, and not only me, there's a couple other people that I've met that met this person too that said the same thing, but those instances came years later, after I was the first of the people I knew that met this guy.
So
And
on TV and everything, they seem really cool.
I'll say the sign is his life story, really, because after that, that's what made me want to know about the person. And the more and more, this is what I'm saying. When you look behind the curtain, you find this shit, man. I'm trying to tell you. It's mind-boggling. It's freaking mind-boggling. When I felt that feeling, years went by. Another friend of mine, and in fact, this particular guy, I've been in the same place as this person on 3 occasions. Okay, all of which I have a short conversation with this person. It made me, over the years, try to look into this guy's story, look at some interviews,
See what he's really about.
Yeah, he's on the other side. He's on the other side for sure.
And let's clarify that too.
Who knows now? But who knows now? But hey.
Well, the thing,
it is what it is, man.
we got to understand when you say the other side, all right? Because once again, I'm about humanity. I'm about humankind. When you say the other side, you're talking about people who are directly in conflict with that. They're not about humanity. They're not about life. They love death.
Well, I think this particular individual, in general, I can't say that he's against humanity, but I'll say this. It would appear to be that he did it for personal gain, individual personal gain. Now, what he has to do behind the scenes to be stay relevant, and to keep whatever he's after, who knows? But I could tell you like this, man. I know other people in entertainment business. Particularly in entertainment, the dark side is not even like a something unusual. Okay, if you get to certain entities, like certain executives, certain people, certain individuals, certain in the entertainment business, especially with music. I know this for sure in music. Man, the dark side is
That's what they're about.
I could say some people might ignore it or play stupid, but I guarantee you, if you got into certain people's offices, in the entertainment, in the music business, and you would, if you had a chance to look at what's the books on their shelves, you'd see, you would be able to confirm what I'm talking about. And of course, I'm not going to mention anybody's names, but
you mean like?
yeah,
But can we
and
mention the
from what I
books to
know,
look for, like Aleister Crowley's occult type books, maybe Albert
well,
Pike?
I would say more, not necessarily that blatant, more along books on mind control, books on
Oh, Anne
magic.
Ryan, Atlas Shrugs, and all that
I don't
type.
know. And Ryan is more ideological. It's not necessarily like a how-to,
Okay.
but it's an ideology, ideology to follow, a way to look at life. You know, kind of it's an atheistic point of view of life.
Mm.
It's like you could say atheism wrapped in capitalism. You know.
Capital atheism. Capital atheism.
Well, I mean,
Oh my
if you
God.
think about it, the epitome of capitalism has to be atheism, because you're willing to sell anything, even religion,
Mm.
sell your soul.
Mm.
Capitalism, everything is there's a market for everything.
That is true.
You
That.
see, yeah, there's a market for everything.
Wow.
No, but you would see like you would see some. You might find some, uh, uh, some books that you find in the dark bookstore. You know, like witchcraft books and books on magic and stuff like that, and books on mind control, different aspects of psychology. You know, some heavy psychology books. You know, not your average psychology books. Um,
And I find that interesting
stuff
you
like
said
that.
that because I've noticed more and more uh, of these bookstores with pentagrams on the front, of the shop or whatever. Not saying that they're Wiccan or pagan. I'm not saying it, but they're in the Nordic runes and all that. I mean, and they're not in the big city. They're way out in the countries, in the sticks. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Well, you gotta understand the occult influence on American religion in general, especially when you talk about country. If you go back, this is something I can't, I'm not well versed in, but something I did read in years back, and just study all the different religions that different Christian uh, denominations that existed in the South, and you had a lot of different uh, um, religions that had an occultic aspect. You know, probably the most famous would be the Mormons.
right, magical underwear.
You know, you got Opus Dei in the Catholic side, Opus Dei. So, I mean, if you really take a non-biased look at the Jesuits, I mean, that's you need that, you know. You can find the occult. I mean, that's where you get the Black Pope out of the Jesuits.
And,
Um, um,
but see,
so I mean, you could see in there is an occultic influence on some denominations in America. And I already told you there's definitely some occultic influences in certain Muslim groups. Absolutely.
Ron Hubbard, Scientology, it's too systemic.
Well,
The whole situation, what we're talking about,
well,
Coach,
you see,
it's everywhere. It's perforated everywhere. And if any
oh yeah, oh,
institution
absolutely.
that is claiming divinity, you would think it would have the blessing of the divine so that it cannot be infiltrated by people with ill intentions in their hearts. You would think. And that's what
Well,
these atheists are
well,
using
look
as
at
a
this.
point.
Look at this. If let's go back to that ultimate evil and ultimate good, what would you think would be? I mean, wouldn't you think one of the most effective tools by the evil side would be a person committed to the evil side but dresses in religion.
Right. That'd be the ultimate weapon. But
Oh yeah.
but God should have, whether it be, angels or jinn or whatever, some sort of supernatural apparatus to keep them up out, because we're too easily fooled. Humans could fool each other like that, and we have been.
That's part of the test of being in this life, though, because the wolves in sheep's clothing they're going to be there, or in Arabic they say dajjal, the liars, the liars, all the way up until the Antichrist or false Messiah. And I know everybody that listens to your show probably doesn't believe in that, but the minor false messiahs, they have to exist because it's a
test run.
It's a test for us in this life. Yeah, it's a test for us in this life. And the thing about it is, I think if you're grounded, you can always see it.
Yeah, that is true.
You can always see it.
Or at least like how you said, when you shook that brother's hand, you felt that, you can feel that spirit. You know what I mean? You can feel something's not right. Now, whether you speak on it, I guess that goes back to your freedom of will or whatever. Because, sometimes you see things and you're like, and you just keep it to yourself and you keep it moving. But I think it's important now that we get to the bottom. If it's a man or woman's claiming to be this and that, but we find out that, they're sacrificing, the innocent, literally, you know what I mean? Just to make a mockery. Then they try to get, my whole point is they try to use that image of being a goody-goody to get into position of power, say a judge or a police officer or a military commander or a, legislator or even a prime minister or president. They use that and then, you see, this is what I'm saying. That's when you see 2020, the effects of the evil. Forget about what a person says. I can sit up here and say, oh, I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat nothing meat related. All right. But then as soon as the camera goes away and the microphone's done, you see me eating a Big Mac. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. These people are doing in a spiritual sense of the word. It's like they know.
Well,
go ahead.
One of the to me the key component to discovering one of these kind of guys is, number one, they draw attention to themselves, and a sincere person doesn't have to do that. Number two, they exaggerate. And they exaggerate and tell fantastic stories of miracles and all kind of, and number three, they have to come up with a new doctrine, because if you were to stay on the original doctrine, you wouldn't follow them. So they always got to come up with a new doctrine. And
that's for any cult or organization. That's
So now let's apply that. Let's apply that to what we've seen in the last few years. Okay, notably Osama bin Laden. Okay, he did all of that. He drew attention to himself. He exaggerated and told fantastic stories. And he came up with a new... Well, actually, he reintroduced an old doctrine.
So his doctrine was the original doctrine?
No. His doctrine that he brought was created in the time of Prophet Muhammad. There was a group that arose. And they're in Arabic, it translates to English as the renegades. Why? Because their whole focus is on rulership. Okay?
Getting power.
And political overthrow and all this kind of stuff. And so they have always been detested through Islamic history, and they've reemerged in different times. Well, that ideology got revived by him. It's not the original idea. No, it's in one of the oldest. This is probably the first break off sect from Islam.
So, in a
And that's
nutshell,
what he
what
brought.
is the oldest, I guess, Islamic doctrine or way to behave? What is the? I mean, just like just the overall, like a nutshell view of it.
Well, that's. I mean, listen. Unadulterated, pure Islam is simple. Testimony of faith, praying 5 times a day, fasting, uh, making pilgrimage, and paying charity to the poor. This is what makes a person a Muslim. Okay, period.
Gotcha.
Okay. Uh, uh, in terms of, I want to answer your question in terms of what we see today,
Mm-hmm.
meaning bombing and killing. That has nothing to do with my religion. Those are people's actions. People's actions. People are responsible for their actions.
Right.
Even if they say this action is in the name of their religion, that person is responsible for that. My religion doesn't require to establish the Khilafah. My religion doesn't require to establish Sharia law in America. Islam didn't come to establish Sharia law. Okay, that's something. I challenge anybody who hears this to bring me any proof that a Muslim is required to establish Sharia law.
Now, where is it
Islam didn't
exactly
come to
practiced at,
establish
though?
Sharia law.
What countries practice Sharia law?
Well, I mean, it's practiced in variations. It's practiced in variations all over the world. But the country that is two countries that is built on that I know of are built on Islamic law, and some have other variations of Saudi Arabia, and I think the island of Brunei, Sultanate of Brunei.
So the two kind of the richest countries.
I think
Because Saudi Arabia is a very rich country,
Yeah.
you know. So the two richest countries, I guess, are the more fundamentalist countries. Then the rest are kind of like in like a Christian sense. Like Saudi Arabia would be Rome, all right, and then
well, even still, no, not it. Well, you could, it could be no. See, Saudi Arabia as a country holds two holy sites from us. So you have to separate the country from the even when the king, when he speaks, he says the preserver of the Haramain, of the two holy sites, Mecca and Medina. So you have a country, okay,
mm-hmm.
that's built on Islamic law, that has two holy sites. These holy sites are you could say, regardless of the country, these holy sites are holy sites. You know what I'm saying?
Right. They're just like a
Because
cathedral
as I
or whatever.
Before 1924, it was the Ottoman Empire. It wasn't called Saudi Arabia.
But was the borders basically the same, or wasn't they greatly expanded? Didn't it go all the way up to Istanbul and all the way over to Cairo?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, once that went down, that's when the country of Saudi Arabia was established.
Gotcha.
So my point that I'm making, the point that I want to get to is that even if a country establishes their government based on Islamic law, who carries out the law? Humans.
Mm-hmm.
And humans aren't perfect.
No, humans are quite fallible.
So exactly. There's no angel program on earth. Okay, there's no perfect program on earth. Do I believe Islamic law as a concept, as a divine revealed way of life? Do I believe it to be perfect? Absolutely. That's my personal belief. It's something that I know and understand.
Right.
However, that is the law.
But see, I think where people
Even me as a human, even me as a human, let's say if I were a king, I might be flawed in my application of the law,
True.
but the law is perfect. I'm not perfect.
But now,
So when we see extremists in the world, these are people who, for the most part, don't even understand the law. On top of it being a flawed human being, then consider their social and economic situation. Now you have room for disaster, and that's what you see. You don't understand the law. You're already you're flawed human. Then your social economic situation doesn't allow you to learn the law or learn what's correct, and then you get throw in a religious charlatan in there, and now you have
recipe for disaster. Recipe for disaster.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I guess this is a question that, I mean, seriously, that a lot of people probably have on their minds would be, so is it in the original laws for non-believers of Islam to be put to the sword?
Not in that context. Absolutely not. Because if that is the case, Islamic history says different, even from the Prophet himself. You know, the Prophet, peace be upon him, had non-Muslim neighbors. He had a Jewish lady that was a neighbor. He made the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, in which the Muslims and the Jews of Medina came together to fight against the Quraysh tribe.
Who were they?
So that was a tribe of well, actually Muhammad, the Prophet, peace be upon him, he was from the Quraysh tribe, but because he came with Islam, they and it was to Islam being a comprehensive way of life, it was against everything they were living under. You know, they had a interest-bearing economy. They had alcoholic, big market for alcohol. They had very strange marriage practices. They had disdain for the birth of a daughter. You know, they had disdain for women. You know, so when Islam came, it was against everything, every part of their way of life. So they fought against Muhammad. And when there was a time in history when Muhammad was in Medina, and they made a treaty with the Jews of Medina to resist the attack of the Quraysh. So also we have you can say the golden ages of the Moors in Spain.
Man, they were Muslims, right?
Over 800-year history, where Muslims created a sanctuary for Jews and Christians to when they were being persecuted in other lands.
Who was persecuting the Jews and Christians in the other land, though? Because I thought the Moors operated up there in Spain, the Spanish area.
What I'm saying is they created a sanctuary where other, particularly Jews and Christians, they could come and reside amongst the Muslims in their country, and they had, you know, what you could say, they welcomed them with open arms.
So they were like refugees.
So these verses, that when people bring these cut and paste verses, these verses are contextual to the situation in which they were revealed. For example, there was a treaty in Mecca when the Muslims were under siege. They were very small in number. They were siege, and they were I'm having an interview.
Yeah. Oh.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Oh, so sorry about that. Anyway, so they were under, and they made a treaty with the Quraysh that no one would be harmed. So there came a time when they violated the treaty, and then the verse came that they could fight them. They could fight the non-believers. So these verses cannot be just, oh, that's a non-believer. This is garbage. There's no compulsion in religion in Islam. Okay? Does Islam teach that Islam is the only real religion? It's the only correct religion for mankind? Absolutely. It does teach that. But there's no compulsion in religion. Religion is an individual path that every individual on earth is going to journey down that path. And at the end of the day, God is the ultimate judge. It's not, the judgment is not on me. I don't say, oh, I'm a Muslim and Patrick is not a Muslim. Oh, he's a non-Muslim. And therefore I have to treat him with respect. No, it's the opposite. The fact that Patrick is a non-Muslim and I am a Muslim, I should give the best example of a Muslim should be to his fellow brother in humanity.
I see.
I should be an example. I should be an example. I should be an example. Not, I should not walk around with a chip on my shoulder. If I hold this thing, and this is for anybody who, in any religion, if I bear the truth, how can I be angry and arrogant if I want you to be attracted to it, or even attracted to me? It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. That's the way people will not listen to you, or even to be attracted to who you are as a person. Because at least if a person like Patrick or anyone else, they could say, well, I can see, although I'm not a Muslim, I can see how Islam made this guy a beautiful person.
Right.
Even though it's not my choice.
The same way I can see how Hindu has made, all my friends from around the world. I think the point that I really want to emphasize here is that we are all spiritually free to follow the path we desire. But there has to be an understanding in that freedom that if you follow the religion, like if I sat up here and I literally followed the religion of death. Seriously, I had skulls and all this veneration of death. All right. But on the streets out there, I'm sitting here draped in like a very humble, it's like a total scam. That's what I'm saying. A lot of these deadly cults, these deadly religious theories are doing to people. It's turning them dead. It's making them spiritually dead. And then when they do come out of that, they reject everything. And see how that kind of just, in a way, many ways, poisons that individual?
Well, I think what's the biggest problem is when people find something new, they get emotionally turned on first. And that's the wrong thing. Whatever your chosen faith, you have to know it. You have to know it. It has to be from a knowledge base. That's how I got into Islam. I didn't get into Islam from an emotional point of view.
From a charismatic speaker.
It came. I'm sorry?
Yeah, you didn't get in from, like a lot of times there's a very charismatic speaker.
Right, exactly. No, it didn't come like that. And see, that's how a lot of people get into different things. And it might not even be religion. They get in with a slick talker, or they get in emotionalized. And I think, for me, because I came in from a knowledge-based point of view, I haven't been able to stray too far from, you know, I don't entertain emotionalism.
There you go. I mean, because listen, there's nothing wrong with emotions for what they are. But you really shouldn't be acting,
context.
yeah, in the proper context. But you really shouldn't carry your day-to-day life emotional. You know what I mean? I don't think it will work too well for an individual. That's why it does take logic. That's why it does take reason, critical thinking, and think things through. You know, a lot of us fail to do this, and we suffer the consequences of the mistake or of the sin. You know, I mean, think about it. Look how many brothers and sisters out there right now are dying of drug-related diseases. Look how many are dying of, you know, car crashes. And I'm not saying car crashes are a sin or nothing, but if a person's all whacked out on drugs and they jump behind the wheel, they drive on down the road and crash. Yes, that's a drug-related deal, all right? And the only reason why I'm bringing up the drug thing is because it's a spiritual thing. Drugs open up a person's psyche in many ways, all right? And it's allowing things in and out. You know, some of those artists, I do my best work when I'm on this or that, you know. Well, that's because there's certain veils.
Escape is drugs are the it's like you can sit where you are, but you could travel. You know, so a person
travel
sitting
without
in their
moving,
room watching TV. You know, exactly. You know, it lets their mind go to places that it can't normally go.
But now,
And
speaking
so
of,
that's the.
why does Islam have such a prohibition? Why does Islam have such a prohibition on alcohol consumption or eating pork?
Well, first of all, pork is let me take the pork one. The pork one is you know, you have some Orthodox Christians that they take Leviticus seriously.
Yeah, they won't eat pork or crayfish or
Yeah. So I mean, it's not just only Muslims on the pork thing. See, the thing about Islam is that Islam unifies the message of all the prophets.
I thought there was just the one prophet, Muhammad.
See, no. All the prophets from if you want to say Adam is the first prophet, all Adam to Muhammad, all of them are recognized in Islam. And the general message about food prohibition is consistent. I mean, you're not gonna find, at least I don't, at least as I don't believe you're gonna find the consumption of pork in any part of the Bible.
No, because it's an unclean. It's a unclean animal. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying that's just that. Now, with alcohol, the revelation came in 3 stages. One was there's a little good in it, but a great harm. The second one was don't approach prayer while intoxicated, and the last one is stay away from it. So, the general theme in Islam, anything that steals from your purpose on this earth, which is the obedience, is the worship of God, anything that steals from that worship is forbidden. That's just a common theme.
So, like, marijuana is also forbidden in, like, just use Saudi Arabia. Is marijuana illegal over there?
Yeah, all drugs are legal out here, but again, people are human. So, you know, there's a very strict rules here, but everything that's in the world is in Saudi Arabia.
I mean, you know, not to sound too pious, but I wish there was one country that was on the up where there was no, you know, just one. Let the world be the world, but just let one country be totally upright and righteous would be so awesome. Just one country. No drugs, no prostitution, no none of that.
I hear what you're saying, but humans are just never going to be perfect.
I get that. I truly do.
You
But
know?
we should not strive. We should, just because that's the reality. We still, that being said, does not negate the fact that we should want, or at least have the desire to be perfect, though.
Sure, 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 sure. And I think that there are examples on the earth where you can say the majority of the people in a given area are really good people.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
they
mean,
come in all different walks of life and in different races and colors. You know, I truly believe I'm one of those people that believes in the good of people.
true. I mean, yes,
I
even
really
and
do.
even drunkards
You know,
and drug
yes,
users are
yes,
good people.
there's a large percent of us that are brainwashed in racism and classism and
Yes.
all these other isms. But I think in general, I've traveled enough of the world. I've been in a lot of different countries that I think, you know, generally people are kind of good, except for the ones that have allowed the brainwash to all the way set in. You know.
And that's tough because those people, you know, what can you do? Seriously, what can you do with a person who has internalized hate as their religion? And you know who I'm talking about. There's people out there, you know, that has no thought of God, but just thought of, you know, how can I hurt this person that doesn't look like me or isn't the same sex as me? Like even me, you know, I'll be honest. You know, I used to have a I guess bigoted or not hateful. I never wanted to beat up or hurt, you know, whatever. But, you know, homosexuals, because of, I guess, my Christian upbringing, very, you know, traditional. You know, it was sort of like one of those groups that everyone collectively point their fingers at and whatever. And, you know, since maturing, I realized that was, you know, just like a localized behavior I participated in because everybody else was doing it, basically. You know what I mean? And I see how people can get caught up in it. But unless you reject, once you find out something's wrong to do, that's when you need to start backing away from it. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But I just think that we as a society, especially in American society, we're so hypersensitive about a lot of different things. And
sure.
Especially in 2018, in this era, people are not able to draw a line between being generally respectful to all people and still holding a particular position on homosexuality. For example, like myself, I am a person that can talk to anybody and have a respectful conversation with anybody. However, I do not agree with that lifestyle.
There it is.
But at the same time, if I met, I mean,
you don't have to be rude.
For example, someone, you know, I'm not going to be rude or disrespectful because that's not how I was raised. I'm not going to let my personal stance curb my social behavior. Because I believe there's a certain level of social behavior that should be acceptable, you know, wherever you are. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to put myself in an environment knowingly where something may arise. Let's say there was some kind of alternative life festival at a park, right? And I didn't know what was going on. And I walk over to the park and I see they're selling juice and all this kind of stuff. Me myself, once I realize the environment, I'm gonna, you know, nicely exit. You know, I'll just exit the place.
Now, how will you
mean?
deal?
That's not my crowd.
But how would you deal if crowd members followed you to your home, beating on the door, you know, trying to make you accept that?
No. First, I mean, we're not gonna get to my door. If somebody's following me, they're gonna make it all the way to my, you know. Once I notice they're following me, hey man, you know what's going on? Let's.
And they aggressively, You're gonna. We want you, like those boys in Solomon and Gomorrah.
I'm gonna tell you like this. If the situation requires me in order to survive, I'll run. How about that?
There you go. There you go.
I'll run.
There you go. I mean,
hey man, hey. At the end of the day, the last thing you want to do is get knocked out and get raped. I mean, I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but I'm just saying, hey, I can run. I'll run.
Oh my God, that's so messed up.
Hop in a cab, do something, but
my appointment's in 20 minutes.
Doing nothing will not be the answer. But I mean, I don't anticipate that ever happening.
No, I mean, let's be honest. For the most part, that crowd or segment of population, for the most part, aren't violent. You know what I mean? They're not gonna attack you and try to convert you, I guess, that way, or however they do their conversions.
I think I've watched a lot of different videos on YouTube and on World Star and stuff like this of these little different interactions. I say it's always a situation when a person just doesn't know how to de-escalate scenarios.
Right.
Sometimes when you're in a public area, it's always best to just keep your mouth shut sometimes and just,
observe.
Even if somebody's keep on talking, maybe it's just best to keep your mouth shut. I don't have to engage if I don't want to.
Right. But we got everyone brainwashed to such a degree. You can't be no wimp.
People think that you have to engage every confrontation. You do not.
So
you do not have to engage every confrontation.
Why would you? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's been a real pushback with the effeminate males over here. So now we have a situation where we have people wanting to be ultra alpha males. You know what I mean? Could you just give a real quick brief?
I think
a manhood. What it means to be a real man. Your opinion of it.
That's too grand. That's too grand. And I'm gonna tell you this, Patrick. I'm gonna have to go into like the next 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, because it's only supposed to have been 15 minutes.
Yeah, but I'll say this. The whole issue of manhood in today's era is, I think, for a young male, let's say a young male coming into manhood, assuming that he's had, I don't know where I want to go with this. I really want to deal with the alpha male thing.
Okay.
See, I want to address what you said, the ultra alpha male. See, the thing about it, if a person is overdoing it, it becomes an act. Okay? It's not natural. And I think the whole thing, this is what I was trying to articulate, the whole thing about manhood and alpha male-ism, if I can say that, is that it's something natural. It's something natural.
I agree.
I think me at this age, I think it's something that comes natural. Living by principles. Being a self-starter.
Yep.
A knowledge seeker. A responsible, reliable. A person that doesn't need always to be with a group. Is a person that is comfortable alone.
There you go.
What I mean by that is sometimes you meet guys that they need help on every little thing they need in life. Even small, simple things. Like you might do a person a favor and put together some documents for them and say, hey, I want you to read over these documents, and if it's good for you, then tell me what you think. And then that person, that simple task, he makes reading the document like climbing a mountain.
I know people.
And he calls you up, and what did you mean by this? And what did you mean by that? And at the end of the conversation, you just realize that the person he doesn't want to do his part. He doesn't want to stand alone.
Right.
Sometimes, part of being a man is standing alone. Being a rock for someone else and not needing a rock.
Wow. I mean, that goes against.
You got to be the rock.
That's
so
it.
A lot of these guys that are ultra, these are guys that the definition of manhood and alpha maleism is in a character. It's not really in the work. So you might find a guy, he's still living with his mom. He's never committed to anything seriously financially for his own future or his kids' future or his family's future. He's just, getting by here and there. But in a conversation with his girlfriend, when she talks shit to him, he'll say, what? Girl, I'm a grown-ass man. And to him, when she's quiet, that's the confirmation bias. Okay, I'm an alpha male. I got this girl in check. But you ain't got you in check. You ain't got your life in check. And I don't measure life in check by results, because I understand how cutthroat the world is.
Yes.
I understand there's a lot of alpha males out there that are natural born leaders, principle, they live by principle, and they are the rock for a lot of people. But I understand that the system may be treacherous to them, and they may not have the fruits of being what people think is an alpha male. Because I'm going to tell you, there's more beta males got the millions and billions than alpha males. I'll tell you that now.
That is unfortunate, and I have to agree. Because, like you said, the majority of it's an act.
Beta doesn't have because you know why? The beta doesn't have that principle to guide him. You see, the beta will sell a little ass to get a little pass.
Damn.
Even though he's a man. No, I'm keeping it real.
Damn. That's disgusting.
And what I mean by selling ass, I mean literally and figuratively. Meaning he will break his principle for some kind of gain.
But that's what I'm saying. There's some things, and maybe this is my indoctrination in general. There's some lines you don't need to or have to cross. You really don't. And those are the lines that...
Well, I think like this. Because I said it's a deeper thing. I know I'm running out of time, but it's a deeper thing. When I say manhood is natural, it's because it is natural. Your manhood stems from your male hormones.
Right.
Okay? And when you go through the natural process of life, you become a man. Now, anything in your life that violates whether principle or biologically or chemically that will damage your manhood, now you've become less than a man.
Yes.
Even if it's unintentional, because I understand that some of these young men who are growing up to be beta males is because of chemicals in the food. I understand that. I understand they're trying to emotionalize us through chemicals, through television, through entertainment. I understand all of that. At the same time, I personally believe that manhood is a natural process. You don't have to put no extras on it.
Right. And you can't be trained to do it.
Even if you didn't grow up with, you can be, because I could say you could be trained to do it, but you don't have to act. You could even not have a male role model growing up, a positive male role model, and you could get it through observation.
True.
You could get it through trial and error. And that's why I say there's a natural process. It's just when you cross too many lines and go against the grain, or you are exposed to these chemicals and these different environmental issues, that's what takes you away. Or if, like I say, sometimes people's curiosity will take them too far.
Exactly. And
I know what people, when they hear that, they think that I'm just talking about homosexuality. No. Because I think part of manhood is self-control regarding sex.
I mean, that's why we get married.
Manhood.
You know, I mean, so that we have so you're not out there just screwing every chick that you see. You know what I'm saying? That you are committed to this one woman, and with her you raise a family. Versus, you know, you hit Sally, then you go and hit Kim, and then you go and hit whoever. You know what I mean? That's not really conducive to a strong society or a strong family anyways. So sexual control is a part of the thing.
If you look at within your circle of friends you've known throughout your life, look at the guys who was always weak to a female, always weak to sex. You know, he was, always. Them dudes, they never really prosper in life ultimately, although some of them do. But usually that thing on their back is just like an addiction of alcohol.
Yes.
Or any other drug.
That's what we're talking about.
It always bogs them down. But Patrick, I gotta go, man.
All right, Abdul, Coach. Hey, appreciate you for being on the show, man. And this has been Special Report.